Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and today I decided to explore the park of Neckarhausen Palace in Germany. Well, in Germany, like in many other European countries, basically every town and most villages have a palace. Neckarhausen is considered a village. It was never a town, but yeah, it has a palace with a palace park. And even centuries ago in such places, the nobles used to collect all sorts of rare and exotic things, including trees. And even nowadays, well, most of those palaces are, well, a lot of those palaces still belong to the nobles, but some are property of the towns or universities or with the big ones of the state. And some of them still have nice collections. I don't know about this one. Gonna check it out. First, let's see what's outside the palace. European dwarf palm. This is by far the northernmost palm in the world. It grows wild all the way to the same geographical latitude as southern Canada. It has edible fruits, but they are nothing special. And it seems here, either the inflorescences froze, or they just did not get pollinated. It produces fruits in Germany. I've even seen it become feral in one occasion, but nope, all those don't look like they're gonna produce fruits. Here a Canary Island date palm. A very interesting ornamental, which can grow from very moist to very dry places in mostly subtropical areas. Here it cannot grow outdoors. Those dwarf palms, they could plant them out here in the parks, they would survive. The Canary date palm would freeze. Poisonous yew, cut in the traditional pyramid shape. This was pretty common in old parks. A lot of nice flowers. Well, over there an old palace garden gate. What is behind it? Nice, beautiful new village center. Lavender. Just a couple decades ago, Germany would have been too cold to plant the lavender out like this, or at least you could have done it, but it would have died back every couple winters. What do we have here? A pyramidal oak. Those grow all over the world in temperate areas, but they come from a place not very far away from here. Actually, the ancestor should be 300 to 400 years old now, but it's still alive. The ancestor of all those pyramidal oaks throughout the world. I should go and visit it. It's a very historic tree and it's not very far away. And here I see another oak. This looks like Quercus ceris to me, an oak from the Balkans. Is it Quercus ceris? The leaves look a bit like Quercus ceris. When I find a couple acorns. Oh, this is a beautiful park around the swimming pool. But today I don't want to go swimming. I want to go castle exploring. Oh well. Cannot find. Yeah. I can find a couple acorns, but what I need are the caps of the acorns. Also, those are a little bit small for Quercus ceris acorns, but with the caps I would be sure. Well, no caps. Oh yes, it is Quercus ceris. Here I see the young acorns. Funny, those things were planted by mistake in a place in Germany about 100 years ago, and by now in the oak forest where they grow, the Germans don't like the Quercus ceris timber, but in the forest where they grow, basically this oak from the Balkans has become the overstory tree, while the native oaks planted at the same time have been reduced to understory trees. And here we have the Persian ironwood, Parotia persica. Yeah, in autumn it really looks like a parrot. Bright red, orange and yellow colors, and the timber is extremely hard. I hope they don't want to charge me money for entering this place. In small towns and villages it's usually not being done because the locals are supposed to visit them for free, and there are usually not enough outside tourists. There seems to be a village museum here. This is the park. I remember I was here once over 30 years ago. What have we got here? Portuguese laurel cherry, maybe the most bitter cherry in the world. Oleander, incredibly toxic. I think they left it out because look at all those young suckers. I think they left it out and it froze back in some winter. Bay leaf also, to be honest, for the average village palace in Heidelberg, this is quite big. That's why it's called, in this case, Schloss. Usually most of those villages have a Schlösschen, which is a small palace, but this one apparently is big enough to be considered a real palace and not a small one. Also, to hear those things, those are the ban of all fruit foraging and fruit cultivation, the parakeets. Actually, my main reason I visited this place 30 years ago was because it seems to have been one of the first places invaded by those parakeets. Back then, there were a lot more old trees here. I remember this place was full with old trees. Now I see 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 really old trees. Those parakeets, they don't like cold weather and they like parks with old trees because they like to roost in them. Here, by the way, one of their very colorful feathers. And this park had a lot of old trees with old cavities in them. Yeah, most of them are gone by now. I don't remember such big open spaces. It looked basically like this part. A lot of old trees, but a lot closer together than now. They must have lost many of them. But look at this beautiful hybrid sycamore. It's about 2 meters thick. It's a natural monument. In Germany, natural monuments are not like the US, just national parks created by the president and not the Congress. In Germany, a monument is something monumental, but usually small, like this monumental tree, smaller than a national park, but still gigantic. And the funny thing is, look at the American bald eagle on the natural monument sign. Yeah, beautiful. Also, wherever they haven't cut the grass, the ground is covered with mouse barley. Yes, this is a close relative of barley. It's called mouse barley because it's a barley but so small that only mice would like to harvest it. Over there, a huge German oak. This should be Quercus robur, unlike the Quercus ceris we saw before. This should have been this is a couple 100 years old, but probably some technical building connected, or rather not connected to the palace, because probably something smelly was done in there. Let's check it out. Honey locust. The honey locust fruits are edible. Magnolia, the magnolia flowers are edible. A couple old oaks have survived and they are full of parakeets. Here is the normal laurel cherry from Anatolia and the Balkans. It is being eaten in its native areas, but here in the West almost everybody thinks it's toxic. It's quite a good sized park for, yeah, this is definitely not a Schlösschen, but a small, well, a small Schloss, which would be a Schlösschen. I still don't know who resided in here. So many noble families around here. I mean, this used to be the Holy Roman Empire, folks. You've ever seen a map of the Holy Roman Empire? Yeah? I had to study and memorize this shit at school. A thing which was not an empire, but a federation of 2,000 little states. And those were only the ones that had some degree of independence. There was a lot of noble family which did not have their own state. Here, by the way, a blood beach. A beach with purple blood-like leaves. Old tree. They don't get too old, but this should be over 100 years old. The Giant, well, look at the size of the giant sycamore here. It's one of the biggest I've seen around here. It's probably around 200 years old, I would say. The beech is also probably over 100 years old. It seems that it has become so dangerous that the fence has been made around it. The fence could also be in order to protect some rare plant or animal here, probably animal, but I think it's so that the branches don't fall on anybody's head. Yeah, there used to be more old trees here 30 years ago. Yeah, that's when you're old. You remember everything the way it used to be, not the way it's right now. Oh, those are some walnuts, but not the European walnuts. This is probably black walnut. Yeah, smells like walnut. Juglans nigra, Schwarzennuss, black walnut. And the parakeets, of course, are foraging the nuts like crazy. With their super strong beaks, they can break even those super strong nuts. In Europe, they are mostly used as ornamentals and for timber, but in North America, the nut or seed is actually quite highly valued. What was this? Cladrastrum luteum, quite a rare Fabaceous species. Oh no, this is not a, I think there's something different. This is Kentucky coffee, of course. See, this is an old fruit from last year. Oh, moldy inside. And some animal removed the seeds, but wait. This goo tastes similar to the not so far related black locust goo. And there is a lot of malt on this goo. That means it's nutritious. I need to find an intact fruit. This could be a good discovery. By the way, Kentucky coffee, because the early settlers used to char the seeds and grind them in the coffee mills and drink them like coffee. But people used to do this with basically every type of seed. Look at that, the snail also likes the Kentucky coffee. Hey, I need intact fruits. Give me intact fruits. The first one, some animal, probably the parakeets, had extracted the seeds. But I guess, oh come on, give me intact fruits, man. I want to try this. Okay. Let's just check if it really is Kentucky coffee. It has a number. In German parks and cities, every tree has a number, so that they don't get lost. Nobody cuts them down, and also they check them for falling branches. But I'm pretty sure it's Kentucky coffee. Give me the fruit. There is one over there which is open. Here we have two more fruits. This should be actually part of a separate video. Let's continue with the park video. Do we have here an ornamental cherry, a purple cherry plum, stinging nettle, a close relative of the Australian gimpy. It's stinging a lot, but if you crush the stingers, it becomes a very healthy and nutritious snack. Bah, I didn't crush all stingers. It stung me in my mouth. Here the Kentucky coffee is spreading. The Mediterranean evergreen holm oak. Yeah, in those areas there used to be a lot of old oaks and other old trees. That was the main reason those parakeets liked it here. Not anymore, I guess. Young oaks and young trees. Feral black walnut. Could this be what I think it is? This looks like a pawpaw. I mean, it could also be some magnolia. Pawpaw or Indian banana or Pullman's banana. A fruit which should have been widespread in Europe for the last couple hundred years, but it only makes its debut right now. The flowers are quite distinctive, so are the fruits. I see neither, but the leaves me with a strong suspicion that this is actually a pawpaw. Forgot the name of this beautiful maple. But yeah, even those couple trees show us that, yeah, they are trying to have an arboretum or tree collection here. Here, a nice upright growing cherry plum. So yeah, it is worth checking every single tree and shrub here to see if we can find something rare and interesting. An Indian Lagerströmia, beautiful flowers, just not right now. This shows you that climate change is real. 20 years ago I was so excited to find this in Italy. Back then I didn't know that there is a single small plant in Heidelberg. Now it's being grown quite a lot in Germany, but 20-30 years ago it would have totally frozen to death here. The one single tree in Heidelberg, it did freeze down a couple times, and it was growing in a very peculiar microclimate on a south-facing slope with a river nearby and very interesting winds. But now this one is grown here in the Rhine flat, well, of course in a protected area, sheltered by other trees from the wind, but still. And here we have the red cherry plum. Cherry plum is one of the parents of our modern plums. And it's actually the only plum which is tasty while still unripe. Other plums usually taste disgusting when they are unripe. This one is sour, but in a pleasant way. Also here, hackberries. Pretty tasty fruit, although there's almost no flesh around the big seed. The funny thing is, sometimes after mild winters, you have a cohort that ripens in winter and is basically ripe in May. Those here will be ripe in September. This winter was too harsh, so no cohort that ripens in May. But sometimes you can eat them very early. This is a winged walnut. Comes from Persia, just like our normal Persian or English walnut. Here an old ginkgo tree with woodpecker holes in it. Here you can see the surrounding houses, and here the original wall of the park. And yeah, here is one of those old trees. Look at that size-wise. It doesn't look like much compared to the giant sycamore tree. But let's see, 1856. So this thing was around 150 years old. Very asymmetric growth you can see here, and here you can see a lot of historical events. Oh yeah. And that's what happens to this tree in the end. And see, yeah, it was very asymmetrical. You can see it from the stump. And finally it became too asymmetrical and broke. And yeah, they have preserved it in a nice way. As you can see, this here is quite well protected from water. So it will take probably decades for this to rot away, and for decades people can enjoy a little bit of history here. This chainsaw art became popular in the last 20 years. Now it's being done by many people, and also lumberjacks have to do it as a masterpiece. What is a masterpiece? Well, yeah, masterpiece is... Oh, this thing nettle stung me in my throat. A masterpiece is, of course, every beautiful piece of art or craft. But basically, if an apprentice wants to become a master, he has to deliver a masterpiece. And for woodcutters, often part of this graduation for becoming a master involves making some chainsaw sculpture showing that you are a master of the chainsaw. It's pity. Almost no old trees left. I wonder if most of them got destroyed in one catastrophic event, like some big storm or something, or if they just were removed one after the other throughout the last 30 years. I think at least 2 or 3 dozen of centenarian trees were removed since I last visited this place. Here the field maple, the best maple timber in Germany. This tree might look quite small, but it's quite old, and even if you would sell the timber, it would be quite valuable. Unlike the Norwegian maple, which grows much faster. And the timber is also valuable. They are known as noble timbers in Germany, but not as valuable and not as tough as the little field maple. Cornell cherry. This is a type of edible dogwood. It will give you constipation if you eat it, but that's why it's also being used medicinally. If you have diarrhea, you just eat a couple fruits and they'll plug you up quite fast. When I was a kid, we had one little jar of Cornell cherry jam, and whenever somebody had diarrhea, they would take just 1 spoonful of it, because if you take more, you get plugged up quite thoroughly. If you wonder whether there is a native relative of the mango in Europe, this is it. Cotinus cogugria. In Germany it's called the wick bush because the flowers look like, no, the fruits actually look like a white wick. This wonderful smell. It smells like a really fragrant Indian mango. In Bulgarian it's called the stink bush. Actually, I have an adventure with this thing on the Orient Express. Once it used to be the most famous train in the world. And yeah, once a naked barbarian, a naked barefoot bloody barbarian with a backpack full of those things entered the Orient Express, and it was big fun, but that's for another video. Some ornamental apples. Most of those are not bad when fully ripe. One with bright red flesh. Sour. Tastes like an unripe apple, but in half a year it's gonna be much better. And of course, I couldn't live without showing you the Mediterranean potted plants from the orangery. Olive tree, a lemon, pomegranate, couple more palms, and another olive. Yeah, those collections of potted Mediterranean and subtropical plants used to be part of the show-off of the rich nobles of old.